What's up, guys? We played another game with the black pieces against Inspire. We're at 2000. Um, so I had 80% accuracy, no real blunders, so that's a good thing. Let's go over the game. He went e4. I played the Pirc defense, d6. He went d4. I went knight f6. He went knight c3. Heading into the classical. I went g6. This is theory. He goes into the classical variation. I feint caro my bishop. And now he plays his bishop to d3. Knight c6 is kind of the move. I played something a little different. Castle. Like here, knight c6 is kind of the move, but I went b6, trying to double feint caro. Just a different setup. He castles. I develop. He develops his dark squared bishop. Maybe I should probably tag it, but I don't. I develop knight to d7. He moves his rook behind his central pawn. I went c5 instead of trying to go for an e5 in this type of position. You could probably still hit the bishop. But yeah, c5 is just another strategy to break down his center. I go for c5. He pushes, takes space. I develop my rook, subtly threatening to kick his bishop. When it goes back, I could maybe throw a knight here. I can try to defend this pawn. It's like a6, b5. I don't know, I figured my rook would get to c8 anyway. He stops that by physically stopping it. Opens up his queen's line of sight. Fine. I play a6 so that I can play b5 and have this nice pawn mass over here. And if he lets me, that's probably pretty good for me because I get some queenside play along with the bishop. So he kind of has to play a4 here, which he does. Now I can't play b5, so I have to do something else. That something else happens to be knight e8, because I was trying to figure out what to do here, and what I wanted to do was put my knight in the center, but I couldn't because it wasn't defended enough times. So by going knight e8, I'm redefending with the bishop so that I can throw this in the center. And my idea was that once we trade, whichever piece takes, I'll take with the pawn, and I'll have this whole kind of thing on d6, but I'll put my knight there, and then I could reroute my bishop, and maybe I could try to play that position. That was my plan because I didn't know what else to do. I was kind of cramped. I didn't get in my b5. So he puts his queen behind, creating a battery and preparing to develop his rook. So now I've followed my plan and put my knight in the center, which is guaranteed to trade something, so that I have a little more space in my position. He takes with the knight, the most natural capture. You might be able to take with the bishop here as an option, but that wasn't my plan. I wanted to take with the pawn so that it comes with tempo, because I wanted it to come with tempo so that I get knight d6 in for free. I thought since I was, kind of cramped, I need this gain of time to help me balance things out. So he retreats the bishop. I plant my knight where I thought I would, and now I figure I don't have to move this guy. Now he goes bishop back because I'm targeting it. Maybe he should have went like, I don't know, b3, because if I take it and he takes the pawn, I can never get in b5. Like, his bishop's not doing much except pressuring a6. Maybe he can double stack it. I don't know, but retreating like this, I don't like because of what I did in the game. He now lets me push here if I want. And also b5 is an option because it's the knight's defending that square. So I thought to myself, I can go b5 c4 or c4 b5. I don't think the move order matters. So I just go c4. He moves back. I go b5. He takes, I take. And I thought here that at least now I'll have some play on the queen side. And these pawns are kind of nice. His bishop's hemmed in. I liked my position here. He plays here, which opens up the diagonal, protects his pawn. It allows something to go here, but it also allows me to give a check if I ever need. I push. Normally I would keep this and go rook a8 because his bishop can't move, and if it goes here you can take the rook. But I saw this sequence that after b4 the knight can't really go forward because that will create problems for him. So he would have to go, these are kind of dumb, so he would kind of have to go to e2. And I normally wouldn't do this because these pawns, I don't want them to be weak. But I saw that I could immediately follow up with a tempo check, protecting the pawn. And after he does this, queen b5. And I said, okay, this is like a nice little home for the queen. And it nicely protects these pawns, and now I'm active with good pawns that are advanced pretty far. And I really liked my position here. I wasn't sure exactly what to do other than rook a8. He moves his queen. This enables him to offer a queen trade. And I mean, what else can he really do in his position? It's how many moves does he have? Yeah, here I went f5. The obvious best move, because f5 is the second best move, but the obvious best move is the one that I've been wanting to make. I don't know why I didn't make it. I must have forgotten. Rook a8. It hits the bishop. The bishop can't move anywhere because the rook hangs. And all we have to do is double the rooks and just win the bishop outright. Maybe he could go back with his knight, but he's going to be all tangled up, which is nice. Instead, I went for f5, which attacks the center and maybe threatens to kick the queen off this diagonal. Creates a little more room in my position. Also starts a war on a different front. He goes h4. I have no idea what the point of this is. Maybe he was going to go h5 next. He didn't know what to do. And I said, okay, you know what? I could go, and I'm going to go eventually rook a8. I didn't know what I wanted to do, if I wanted to take or not. I figured I could take and play on the king side, but I also thought that I was better on the queen side. So I'm like, let me close up the king side and just outplay him on the queen side because I'm clearly better here. So I went. Again, they want rook a8, probably. So I hit the queen. This is the queen's only chance to come here and initiate a queen trade. And if he doesn't do it, he's gonna go back, be even more cramped. And my queen is clearly strong here. So he doesn't do it, so now my position looks even better. Now I finally play rook a8. I don't know why it took me so long. And he doesn't want me just doubling and taking it. So and I don't even need to double because I'm threatening b3 in this position. Takes, it's defended, and his bishop can't go back because the rook hangs. So he sees that, he doesn't want me to push b3. He pushes b3 himself, but now look at his... So obviously I see that if I have this opportunity, I'm going to push with tempo, and now his bishop is permanently entombed. So I'm like, okay, this is just horrible for him. He moves his queen up, and now I said, okay, all of his pieces are just stuck because he can't do this. And I have, I guess, infinite moves to do whatever I want. So I'm like, okay, let me just slowly take my time. I'm gonna double my rooks, threaten to just win this. He moves his knight back to defend it, but I double anyway, just because, you know, to keep the pressure. He moves his rook, which would allow him to move his bishop, but now that doesn't make sense. So his rook here and his rook here. I mean, does it really matter? So he has absolutely nothing to do here. So I could take my sweet time, which I do. I go here. I hit the pawn, which is already defended, but it's just a better diagonal. He moves his king, because what else? I move my king. It's just a troll move. Then I go g5. And g5, I mean, yes, it threatens the pawn, but I figured he would take me. But what it does is it opens up this diagonal. And I thought I could maybe sneak attack him around here if the h-file opens up. He takes, I take, he moves his king, and now I sneak attack. And now his queen, which had the trade on offer, these squares are covered, so it's even more useless than ever. He moves, of course I'm going to go queen h5. That was the whole point of getting rid of the h-pawn that he had. He moves his rook over, which I'm not sure what that does. Not really sure. Now the smart thing to do here, I had a minute on my clock. I did not see the best idea, which is pretty simple to see actually. The idea is to put this knight somewhere random, so like knight f7. Now, well, first things first. Obviously, I could take the bishop. I probably could have taken it. I forgot to mention that actually. Yeah, hold on. Yeah, so here I could already win a bishop and a knight for a rook, but I figured why win a little bit of material? It's still winning, but I figured his bishop's never gonna move. This rook's never gonna move. Why release the rook and give him, you know, my active? Like, it didn't make sense to me. So that's when I embarked on this journey of saying, you know what, leave all this on the queen side. It's frozen. I'll hit him on the king side. And the obvious continuation is to remove this knight and bring the rook in. I didn't think of it with the minute on my clock. So I went for the bishop, so I can get in the trade, so I can have access to the g3 square. trades. So now I don't have any crazy tactic against the king or anything because it's just my queen. But just positionally, he doesn't have anything to do. So he moves his queen, maybe trying to initiate a trade. Again, I should move my knight to get my rook into the attack. But instead I said, let me use my h-pawn because I could just use it as a battering ram. So I send it up the board. He goes for the trade, but I want the attack. So I definitely don't trade. He moves his king because he has no legal moves, basically. I move my king for no reason whatsoever. Then he goes rook to h1. Now he's bringing a rook to the h file. Maybe he can contest me, or maybe even he can win that pawn and do something himself. But okay. I bring my rook over. I abandon these minor pieces, and I bring my rook over to the g file so I can have pressure against his king, because this knight can't move because the bishop hangs, the bishop can't move because it can't move. So this is like 11 points of material that can't do anything just because of this rook. So I want to put some pressure on the king if I can. He gets out of the way, and now I see that he can. Normally you can't move this queen because of checkmate, but if he goes here, my queen's pinned, so I can't deliver checkmate. And so I didn't want him to trade queens, so I moved my king out of the way. I wasted so many moves with my king for no reason. It says this is best, but it doesn't actually do anything or matter because he still can't move the bishop, so he doesn't really have a best move. Now I go knight b5, which sets up knight d4, as well as I finally see, oh, let me bring my other rook in. Ta-da! With 24 seconds on my clock, I have to win. He gets his knight out. Now this is defended, so he can move his knight. He's now threatening this pawn. I ignore it and just swing my rook over, hitting this 3 times, and I'm now releasing his bishop and his rook. So it's risky, but it's still completely winning. He defends this a 3rd time, and it would be really nice if I had another attacker. But it's, how? So I put my knight into the middle, which threatens this pawn. Maybe something on f3 one day. So he takes the pawn that was hanging, because why not? And here I said I just need one more attacker, and I don't have any other pieces other than the h-pawn, so I'm like, full steam ahead. And thank God I had it. He tries to run with the king, but I could just play h3 again. But I don't play h3. I go queen g3 because I want to put a piece in here and maintain total control. So when he recaptures, I recapture the piece, and I keep full pressure, and I'm thinking that I can break through on g2, even though it looks like I don't have enough pieces. He brings his knight back, threatening a pawn with check. And now I need another piece to break through on this square. Before I do that, my bishop, which is doing nothing, I improve because now I have one chance, and one chance only, to go here, pinning the knight, meaning I can now trade and get rid of my bad bishop, or my inactive bishop. Or I could just leave the pin, basically I'm just improving my bishop. And this is a one chance to do it since he just let me pin him. He moves the rook over, which defends the knight. But this pawn is kind of hanging too, if I wanted. But now I played h3 to try to break through, because I need to break through, otherwise what was all this for? And if he takes with the pawn, I can go rook back rank and win the rook, because he can't go here, at the very least, if there's no mate. And if he takes with the rook, which he did and had to, then I just take his g2 pawn and I'm finally breaking through. Now this whole row is weak, his pawn's hanging, the bishop behind it is hanging, his knight's pinned. So there's nothing to do. He gives me a check. I don't want to trade rooks because I want to checkmate him. So I just move my king out of the way. He goes back to defend. But it's over. I can go try to figure out a checkmate. I could just start trading stuff and win. I take his f3 pawn because I can, and he has no legal moves anymore, so I could do whatever I want. He goes to defend this pawn, but it doesn't matter. I could just hop my knight around a million times, which is what I do. He moves his king. Then I take a knight. He has to recapture me. Boom. I give a discovered check. Open up the bishop. So you see, when I took the knight, I knew he had to take with the pawn, which opens up the bishop, creating this discovery. And then it's over from here, because there's nothing for him to do. He played up to here. Okay. So at h5 here makes sense. No, you can't take. Alright, something like that. What else did I do? Okay, so basically I have to see rook a8, I have to see the obvious paralyzation. F takes E. Oh, they want you to... That's super risky. I can't play like that. That's a weird line. What else? Just double checking. Yeah, and I could have moved the rook over earlier, but nothing crazy, no big blunders. Okay, good. All right, that's another one. It took down Inspire from the USA. We keep climbing to 2100.